Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the delay. I'm getting fired up here this morning. All right, just one more quick. Give me a why. All right. Good morning, everybody. Um, one more quick why in the room if you can hear me and see my screen, and then we'll get down to business and really get going on what we're going to do for the day today. I appreciate everybody being here. And the first thing every day that happens when we're in the chat room and Mark's running the room, and I'm not going to deviate too far from that for just a minute, is going through trend trade basics. And, again, I'm going to pull up the user guide. And, look, let's, you know, a, most of you guys don't read all the directions. It's just the way it goes. I'm actually putting together a new computer in the process of, and I actually had to read directions yesterday for some reason. Um, it's just not as much fun. Um, Even if you guys read the directions, I have found that the interpretation of what you have read is not always in check with reality. And this is the reason why we beg you guys for posting in pictures and charts. I had a guy the other day, he sent me some charts and he said, "Look, I know I'm doing it right. Why am I losing?" And I said, "What rules are you following?" He said, "Your trend trade rules." And I went in and I looked at what he was doing and he broke all the rules. And, this is one of those things that um, everybody thinks they're following the rules and everybody thinks they're doing it right. And, it's really interesting because, when you go through the rules, and I think a lot of this has been uncovered when we did our automated trading system stuff. I want you to look at this. This whole move in here, none of my rules were true. And I know it's hard to believe. Yes, it's a lot of movement, but when you go back and you actually, and in our automation of the rules, when you go back and you look at where the rules were actually true, and there's arrows on the chart, it's really interesting how many times we see the rules as being true when they're not really true. There's something causing it to not be true. And again, there's a lot of wait time. I mean, not in the NASDAQ, of course, because it is the NASDAQ, but there's a lot of wait time in between. And I do want to do a little bit of system work with you guys, just to make sure everybody's super clear on that. We're not going to do it right away. But, again, the trend trade system follows the rules. And, again, this is where you guys are really, when you're first getting started, you're looking at high probability trades. And, look, we've said the same thing for so long. Really I mean, our trading plan has been almost the exact same since 2003. Um, Obviously, there's a few technology tweaks in between. Market flow is added in, good God, 9 years, 10 years ago now, 9 years ago, 2015, 2016. We added in the market flow. And I do want to also say we're going to spend a little bit of time with the market flow chart today, just to give you guys a little precursor on what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at this range chart in a minute. We're going to be looking at trend trade stuff. And, again, when we, let me make my browser, you guys see that a little better. When we take a look at the rules, there's basically three rules. And this is the reason why we start you guys off with trend trades. And, a lot of people don't get this until they've had software for 6 months or more. But I want you to really think about something. The trend trade rules will make you almost know all of the other trading rules that you need to do different types of trades, momentum trades, high volume area trades. Everything that we teach you with the trend trades is going to be applicable for you for later. And the most important part of that is, these three components. number one, did you make a good top or a bottom or a breakout? I mean, that's really, it's really, there's a video that I did years ago, but you guys have probably seen it. If you haven't, we'll find one for you. But the short version is, if you can say, look, I've got a good bottom or a good top, it's going to change the way you trade going forward. You're going to be a little more aggressive trading into areas, even. Anyway, short version is, if you don't have a good top, then you really are going to have to change your management style. Not that the trades change, but your management of those trades is going to change. And then the second part of that is, which I think everybody, it doesn't take long for you guys to figure this out, but if you're running into some type of line, Fibonacci line 1-to-1s, outer bands, mid bands, fibs, divergences, whatever it is, some type of line, you don't want to trade into it because you're going to lose 75 or 80% of the time. So who wants to do that? Can you guys can't see the video real well? Bear with me. I'll try something. I'll try to reboot it. Hang on just a second. Why is it not stopping? Bear with me. All right. I'll do it again here real quick. Entire screen. All right. It says it's 1440 and 60 frames per second, so should be good. Okay. Anyway, short version is, when you guys go into our YouTube, I don't want to do the same. I don't want to do the same thing. I don't want to do the same thing that Mark does every day. If you guys want to see the opening hour that goes through all the rules, there's 7,000 videos that have the opening hour that talk about trend trades and all that kind of good stuff. So you guys are more than welcome to go back and do that. I don't want to do that. Um, you know, and you guys can do that on your own. I want to get into some other good stuff that, chart watching. I want to do it from the chart more because I think there's a lot more action. And it's just more fun that way. Anyway, short version is, the other part of it is your entry areas. Making sure that you're getting pretty close to the right area with the right rules, with room to targets where you're not running into stuff. And now, if I want you to flip this around a little bit, if you think about the trend trade rules, well, the rule for when you're supposed to stop taking a trade is the first rule for the market flow trades. So, when you go into either momentum trades or high volume area trades, which we're going to take a look at, the very first rule is that you have to have a good top or bottom, which is the exact same rule that we teach you with trend trades. So, but this is a little bit different because this top or bottom for this trade is the termination condition for a trend trade. So if you're at a top where you can't do a trend trade, meaning you're going to lose it, you might be able to go the other way. Somebody wise once said, if you can't go long, go short. Anyway, just an idea. And then obviously the entry for this is very, very specific. We'll take a look at some examples as we go. And then obviously momentum trade rules. The very first rule for a momentum trade is good top or bottom. And if you trade without it, you're going to do 7,000 momentum trades and you're going to get your ass kicked. Raise your hand if you've done it. Everybody's guilty. If you haven't done it yet, when you start doing momentum trades, you will, because everybody sees a momentum trade at all points on the chart. And, it's really, really, really important to get that good top or bottom first if you want a high winning percentage. And then obviously the entry is pretty simple. For grins and giggles, I may not even do this, but from our 2003, 2004 trading plan, we have those exact three same trades as our trades. Momentum trade, tops or bottom trade and a trend trade. So nothing has changed. Do you know what's going to change? You. Your perception of the rules, your perception of the charts, your when am I going to do this or that? That's really the most important part about what uh, trading is going to do for you. So when we talk about trend trades, just for an example, since our trend trade system had a couple arrows on here, I don't have it on. So, again, look, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw some circles in where the arrows are. Let's go back. Let's just not just do that one. But if you guys don't mind, just for grins and giggles, I want to go back and, how far you guys want to go back? We can go back to midnight, but I'll just start it right here, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm going to just draw big circles where the entries are, or square. Sorry, I'll just draw a square. These are where the entries are. Everybody okay with this? And the reason I'm drawing these things on here is because what we're going to do is, because look, if the rules are true, you're going to do a trade. And if the rules aren't true, you're not going to do a trade. And, there's one little extra piece in here that we're going to go through. And you can see, look, I've got my settings kind of wide open. So there's a lot of opportunities with the trading strategy and the way I'm doing it. So this is a little bit more of a wide open version, and I'm just drawing in circles where the pullback, the tails are on these things. Can I say something else? Because somebody gave me a little poop the other day, and they said, why is there an arrow to go short here? The market closed up and the trigger lines were up. And they said, that the rules weren't true. And these are these little boxes down here when the rules are true. You guys have to think about something. When you're going to take a trade, this is the moment in time right here where you say to yourself, do I want to take a short trade if I get one? Right? Do you guys understand what I'm saying? The right edge of the chart, when the market is live and it's down here, let me put a cursor on instead. How's that? A cursor. That's a better pointer. When the market's right here, you're like, wow, what's in my way? Do I have a lot of momentum? Am I going to sell a pullback? And it doesn't matter what happens later. And again, it matters, of course, to the results, but you don't know if it's going to look like this one and keep going down, or if it's going to look like this and you're going to maybe take a loser. So the difference is what happens on your small chart. And I've done a couple videos on this already. But I thought, when we're teaching trend trades, that it would be a good idea to, let's teach with what the charts gave us today. And that one, and that one. So everybody cool with what I'm doing? I'm just drawing in circles where there's tails and arrows. And again, the last one always loses, doesn't it? You guys know that, right? The last one always ends up looking just like this. That looks exactly like the other one we were just talking about. And you don't know it's going to do it, or else you'd be clairvoyant and you wouldn't really need software, would you? You just do what your premonitions have told you to do. All right. So I'm almost caught up here. I know there wasn't many trades, and then we've got these last two. Okay, is everybody okay with this? So all I've done is draw in circles on where those arrows are. And the reason I've done it is because when you go look at your small chart, there's two questions you're basically going to ask yourself. And it's the same question every single time, right? And again, look, it goes back to the rules, which I want to keep this very, 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 very rules based and keep it very, very in line with everything that Mark is doing. So, trade management. We don't want trade management yet, do we? Um, Here, we'll stay off of the, let's see, termination, entry opportunities. All right. So here is basically your small chart. And, this picture kind of summarizes what I was saying earlier is during the live market, you make your decision to buy or sell a pullback when the market's on the high. You're going to buy a pullback. Or, like I was showing you in the other picture, when the market's on the very low, you have to make a decision whether you're going to buy or sell a pullback. Everybody okay with that idea? Conceptually, you're running under the ball, not where the ball is now, but you're running to where they're going to meet. So the idea is hopefully the market meets up at the right spot so the rules can be met and everything looks right. But there's two things that you really have to focus on. And I think a lot of people with this trend trade system have lost this thought process just a smidge. What happened before I'm going to take my trade? And where am I going to take my trade and why? And we've already spelled it out for you. The idea is somewhere inside of the larger triggers and some type of support or resistance. Do I need to go past that, or is everybody okay with that? If you're brand new, watch a couple of these, watch 20 of these videos and you'll see the slow explanation of that. But long story short, you're buying or selling a pullback at support or resistance. Easy enough, right? And then ultimately, look, when we get there and it gets to support, you don't know if it's going to win. How the hell are you going to know? So you have to be okay with the idea that, I've done everything I can do. I've got strength on the big chart. We didn't, when you guys look at this picture, and this is from 2021, so it's 4 years old, but it's the exact same thing still. What happened on the high? Was there divergence? Was there divergence from 1-to-1s? Was there divergence from fibs? Was there a pivot stop out? Was there anything that makes us think that the market made a good top on the small chart? And if the answer is no, then you're going to take your trade. Does that make sense? And if the answer is yes, there is something up here that caused issues, which we're going to look at on the real chart, you may delay your entry, wait for some confirmation with an up bar, or just not take the trade at all. Those are your three choices, right? To go, wait, or not take it at all. Now, ultimately, look, obviously, this is what we want it to do, and this is what it does 70 or 80% of the time when everything is right. And even when it's perfect, sometimes you're going to lose, but you have to be okay with that. So as we go back and we look at our chart, now we can all agree that the large chart had some type of advantage where these circles are, yes? So we'll start with that. And, if you want, we can work backwards, we could work forward, it doesn't really matter. The rules are going to be the same no matter what happens. So let's go back to, where did I start doing this? I put some boxes in. Okay. So here is your first trend trade. All right. And on the large chart, you're like, wow, it was awesome. It went up and it made a bunch of money and we're so happy. So, again, this is where I ask a couple of questions, and again, whenever the market's so strong, you may take one and manage, but you have to ask yourself, what happened right here? This is really, really, really where you're making your decision on if you're going to buy a pullback or not. So, there's three things that will ruin a trade. And the very first one is termination conditions. Let me find termination conditions. Let's go through these real quick just to make it real simple for you guys, okay? Because look, if we see one of these before a trade, we're probably not going to take a trade. So one of the more important things, and again, everybody's okay with this, right? We're going to look at the lines blue and red, yellow and magenta, divergence highs and lows, any midband if the triggers are far away. So our lines, our indicators. Now, this is a very, very, very important concept that you can't horse around with. Oops, sorry. Fibonacci areas and assessing the trigger line location. This is the most important part of reading your chart, support or resistance. The continuation of a trend is likely to be interrupted, meaning you're going to lose your ass, when the trigger lines are not positioned beyond any Fibonacci area. So what does that mean? It means that if you get to a fib and you look at the trigger lines and you go, holy crap, they're not below the blue line, they're above the blue line, then the blue line may hold. And then the other part of it is, let's just say you're at resistance. And you say, okay, resistance, are you going to hold? And you say, where are the trigger lines in relationship to the Fibonacci resistance? And you're like, wow, the triggers are below the resistance, so it's going to hold. And then the triggers are above support, so it might hold. That's a pretty simple concept, right? Where are my triggers? So again, you're going to reach a support area, and again, the same thing holds true when you're looking at a pivot stop out or divergence. So I want you to see this. Do you see over here on the left side how the trigger lines are kind of past the blue fib? And again, once you start to get multiple triggers past, you're not going to make a good bottom. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it could happen, but it usually doesn't. So even though it bounces up, look what it does. It comes back and retests. And now we have a new bottom line, if you will, the divergence line. And then it's a very, very, very simple concept. Where are the triggers in relationship to my lines? And now you go, wait a minute, that divergence line, the trigger lines are above it. So the divergence line may hold, which means you're no longer going to take any type of short trade. Does that make sense? It's really, really, really easy. Where are the triggers in relationship to the line? And it's going to tell you everything you need to know. I mean, reading charts is going to be so simple for you. Watch. I don't even have to give you the words or anything else. We'll look at this resistance and divergence, and then tell me where the trigger lines are. The trigger lines are physically below that, right? So that's really the edge of resistance and a pivot stop out, and the triggers are below it. This is when, number one, you're no longer going to take long trades, right? No matter what happens. But this is also the exact same spot where you're like, I would love to take a short trade if I can get short, because I know this area has a really good chance of holding. So this is where you can do those high volume area trades from the top and bottom. Does that make sense? So it's not all about trend trading. It's about also knowing when the trend is going to end based on reading your fibs, reading your divergences, reading your trigger lines, and then the ability to go the other way. And not only that, to say, hey, it's a really good top. When you go the other way, most of the time it'll break whatever support is down here, especially if the triggers are strong. So yes, that might be your first target, but then you start thinking about much bigger targets. And the minute you quit thinking about making $100 at a time and start thinking about making $500 at a time, you'll actually start making 500 at a time, believe it or not. The same will hold true, just yellow dots, one-to-ones. You don't have to know anything else. You can be a total novice, and you get this concept in 2 minutes. Where are the triggers? Above or below the yellow line? If they're below, you might take a short. If they're above, you're not going to take a short. Isn't that easy? That's too easy. We should probably charge more. It's so easy. Anyway, so now going back to what I was saying, When I wanted to do that because, again, when you see this, you're going to be like, oh shit, that's easy. So you're asking yourself, should I take one more trend trade long? Now, I want you to look at this yellow box I drew in right here and tell me about the strength of the trigger lines and the location of the trigger lines. Is that support going to hold, or resistance? I mean, excuse me, the red lines. Eh, it's kind of strong, and they're kind of getting above. Wouldn't you agree? So usually, if they're getting past, you can take one more trend trade long. Usually, and then I want you to see this. Look, I'm going to move the yellow box to here. And, again, when you get to yellow one-to-ones and pivot stop outs, now you're starting to ask yourself, are the triggers really breaking above that? I mean, they were, but, two things. We've lost strength in the triggers. They're starting to get skinnier. And now where are we going to get in? I mean, live, when you look at this one, the mid band and the bottom of those triggers is kind of close. I mean, it's a little below it, so it's not technically perfect. It's a little bit past it. But now, when you look at an entry area over here, I'm going to draw another circle in because this is where the second arrow is generated. And for me personally, there's no freaking way I like the way that looks. Right over here on the left, all right, maybe we went a little bit past it, but not much. And then over here, when you think about your small chart trend trade rules, look how far below we are. Below the triggers. That's a very difficult trade. So it's probably one, and again, for me, divergence from one-to-ones is usually a no-no. But now, let's just assume it breaks through and keeps going. You can always find another entry. Momentum trade. Some of you guys do the chili dog look. Some of you guys do the jump in look, whatever it is. But, again, this is where, um, you know, and look, we've only done two of the arrows so far. But the small chart's going to answer, and it's not that you can't do other trades. You can always do trades that don't have arrows, but, those will be, that's a different scenario. So, watch, I'm going to scroll back just real quick. Oh, that was our first two. All right. So can I go forward with this just a little bit and go through a few more trades? Because I think in seeing it, you're going to go, holy shit, now I know what I should be doing or not doing. Hopefully. That's the idea anyway. So we had an arrow here. Do we have a good look on our small chart to also go short with the system? What do you guys think? I think the answer is yes. So again, that's a signal that you would take. Now, I want you to look at this one. I'm going to draw a yellow box at the bottom. Divergence from one-to-ones. Now, this is where the trend trade system will get its ass handed to it 9 ways to Sunday. And look, for those of you guys who use the trend trade system, am I right on this? If you get divergence from one-to-ones, it's better to wait for some confirmation like a down bar or something, or else you're going to get run over. How many of you guys have watched the system now, the real system, and watched it live and seen the losers or the winners based on this? This is, again, this is where if you have divergence from one-to-ones and you still want to go short, you probably should wait for a down bar. And then when you get a down bar, you have to ask yourself, does it look right to go short there? I've got triggers above a support. I don't think that's a spot I want to go short. What do you guys think? If you were looking at it like this, right edge of the chart, which is the only spot that matters, would you go short with this look? Yes or no? Y'all type it in. Give it to me. All right. You say no, but I see people do it all the time. So it's just, anyway, just food for thought. We'll see what happens as we go forward here. All right, scrolling forward. Now, it goes down a little bit, but, ultimately all the triggers are up and it goes up. So let's find our next signal and you'll see. So look, that's a signal that yes, we would take. Divergence from one to ones. You guys can either confirm or deny it, whatever you guys want to do. But for me personally, that is suicide, financial suicide. Anyway, with the trading system. All right, so let's look at this one. So as we get to resistance and then the triggers are going past it, what do you guys think about a long signal right here? I think this is an awesome look for it myself personally. So we've broken out, everything's up, we've got room to the target. And then ultimately they make a second. So anyway, I think that's a great spot to enter. I love entries with one-to-ones as well. But they give us our second divergence. Is everybody familiar with the if you're not, if you're brand new, that's okay. Trade management techniques. So once you actually are in a trade, all you have to do is manage it. Well, you need to know the rules. So the short version of the rules for us is if you get in at a spot and you get a pivot, you're going to put the stop below it. Everybody okay with that? And you guys can hear me, right? All right. And look, you'll always get a chance to re-enter a trade. If you get a, when you get a second divergence, you have to think about one of two things. Let me go back to the first management picture because I want you to see this. And look, this picture is from 2022, so it's a very, very old picture. But when people start looking at divergence, they get the living poop scared out of them sometimes because they're like, oh my God, divergence, I'm out. And you have to look at where did the divergence come from? And then what's the state of the trigger lines when you get that divergence? So if you get a divergence and your small triggers are down and way below everything, there's very little chance of that divergence changing the trend. And look, even when you get to support, you may stop taking short trades, but whenever you get a bullish divergence on the low and the triggers are down, it has very little chance of stopping the market. And then ultimately, when you get, 1, 2, 3 divergences, that's one of our rules, but it's the trigger lines, right? The first divergence didn't stop it. The second divergence didn't stop it. Once the trigger lines roll up, divergence, and it's divergence from one-to-ones, but that's going to stop the market. So it's very, very important that you guys are reading your small triggers, especially when you're looking at divergence. And the reason I said that is because, whenever there's a second lower divergence, usually it's an exit. Now, I want you to think about it. I mean, obviously, if you were long at support and one-to-ones and all that, look at what the triggers are doing when you get that second lower divergence. So if you get out, you'd have to get back in again. Or because the triggers are up, you can decide whether you're going to stay in or not based on the highs or lows. Now, watch the flip side of this. If you get a second lower divergence, what are my small triggers doing? They're down. That's all you need to know about managing with divergence. What are the small triggers doing? If they're with you, there's a really good chance that that second divergence is going to reverse the trend. Is that easy enough? And then look, we take that further, and look, you don't know what's going to happen. So we did this in the context of a trend trade entry. So we were going to do trend trade entry long. We all decided, yeah, it's good look. And then you get a second divergence lower. I don't know what's going to happen after the entry and after the divergence. There's no way of knowing. So when you get this look, all you have to do is read your small triggers. What do they say about exiting with a lower divergence? Should you exit or not? It's a very simple yes or no. If you get a lower divergence and the triggers are down, you're going to exit every time, because you will get your ass kicked 9 ways to Sunday. Easy enough? So you don't know what's going to happen. Now, in my trend trade video that I put on, try not to make anybody dizzy, but there's a trend trade management videos with the small charts. And I don't know are they not on here? Managing on the small charts right here. So this video, managing on the small charts, it's on the download section. So my templates on here, my 13.2 chart templates on here. There's a short 3-minute video of why I have my settings the way I do, and then how to manage on the small charts. So anyway, in that download section, you guys will do this. So it talks about, second chances. So assuming the big chart's up and you take your long trade and you're like, God dang it, they beat me out of my trade with that divergence. So now I want you to look at this. Again, you're already out and you lost a little bit of money. So there's no way to get that back. So again, we're going to talk about re-entry. Now, the large chart has to be screaming and perfect, but look, the same thing that got you out, you're going to start thinking about, maybe I should get back in. I've got a divergence on the low, I've got a higher divergence, the triggers are higher, and then ultimately maybe you use some type of momentum trade to get back into your long trade. So, you took a long trade with the system. The rules got you out, and you didn't lose much, but you lost a few points. And then after the small chart agrees that it's okay to go long again, you can take that same thought from what the system was doing and get back in. Does that make sense? So, you're allowing the small chart rhythm to kind of dictate stay in or get out and get back in again. And, and then ultimately as we go forward and you start looking at these trend trades, what do you guys think about a trend trade entry at this next circle? So, and I know we're kind of spending a lot of time on this, but if you get this right, I mean, you're going to be damn near invincible, guys. I want you to think about this for a second. You're literally going to be damn near invincible because you're going to be doing the right things so often, and it's really just a function of starting off, which I'm not showing you at the moment. The big chart has to agree with what you're doing, up or down. Everybody cool with that? So we're already going on the fact that the large chart's up or down. That's why we're drawing circles. So when you look at one-to-ones and triggers and the trigger line location, do not forget about location, right? I can't even. My typing is off. Anyway, location of triggers. Every time. There's not 2 T's in it, but the triggers are where, guys? And again, look, you're making this decision in real time. I want to go back to the user guide because when you see this, you're going to be like, holy shit, I got it. And you're going to see it. I mean, it's going to be so easy for you. You're going to be like, dang, I got it, I got it, I got it. So, again, having a clear path, not having terminations, right? Making sure that your large chart has the right look. That's the easy part, I mean, I think it's the easy part, but and then ultimately the um, entry opportunity. Again, I don't know how else. I think this chart long ago, many moons ago, is just genius. You're making your decision up here. Are you guys making your decisions up here? And again, this is what the system does, and this is what you guys have to do. You have to decide up here if you're going over here or not. So when we look at this chart, this is the live version or the right edge version. You're making up your mind whether or not you're going to buy the pullback. Does that make sense? So this is the point at which you make up your mind. And then the aftermath of that, you never know what it's going to be. But, if we're lucky, it goes up. Now, I want you to do the same thing. Let's be fair. At the right edge of this one before this signal, tell me what you guys see. I see divergence from red fibs with not many triggers above it. What do you think? I wouldn't take another trade. If you were staying in your original trade for some odd reason, cool, but I don't think I would take another trade into resistance with no triggers past it. Would you? I don't think so. Well, but then people would leave their automated trading system on and go, well, it lost. It's like, well, no shit, it lost. Look at what you're trading into. So I do have, did you guys, my programmer's Ukrainian. I don't know if you guys saw that story in there yesterday, but anyway, he is relocating and he's in the process of doing that. Once he is done relocating, we're going to incorporate some of this small chart management into the automated system. So anyway, more good stuff to come. But for now, you guys could do it manually. It's just you got to do a little bit of work first. Soon you won't have to do as much work. And then, with that automated system, we're just going to do leases only on it going forward. I got the first version of the lease software. It needs a little update, so we can't quite demo it yet. But anyway, it goes up, and which is fine. There's going to be times where you decide not to take a trade because of the reasons, and it goes anyway. They call that not your money. Look, this is on the NASDAQ, guys. So let's think about it. When you go back and you say, okay, if I did that short, or I did this long and managed and then took a second chance, and then I did this long and took some money on it, you're very, very happy. You've already reached your $400 or $500 goal for the day. So anyway, we'll go forward and hopefully you guys find this helpful. I'm trying to just do the very, 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 very slow version, and I think as you guys start to see this, you're going to be like, okay, because this is the same. Look, whether you do a system or not, again, that's personal preference for you guys, whether you need help with your consistency or not. Once you actually see, you can do it manually on your own. So we've been only teaching that for 28 years. So I don't want, I don't want you guys to, anyway. I want you guys, before you took this trade long, I want you to answer the question. Should I take that long with this look right here? Should I take a long, yes or no? And if the answer is no, why not? Why would you not take a trade? You can list about 3 or 4 different reasons here, can't you now? Hopefully the first one is you have an area and the triggers aren't past it. That's one. Number 2, big fat red Fibonacci area. That's number 2. Number 3 is divergence from fibs and 1-to-1s. So that's a damn fine reason. That's a bunch of reasons not to take a trade. Does everybody understand that? Now your system only looks at the large chart. It doesn't have any idea this happened on a small chart. That's your job. That's why you're called the trader. and not the bystander, right? If you got paid for being a bystander, that would be awesome, but you don't get paid very well for it. You don't get paid at all for being a bystander. You have to take action. So, is this a spot where you take action? Probably not. And you'd be like, oh my God, I should have got in. And then you're like, oh shit, I'm glad I didn't. Right? So, again, this same reason right here why you're not going to go long, even though it bounced up. Sometimes you get that last bounce. Now you've got the same number of reasons, but even another one, which is a divergence line that was stopped out. Answer a question for me. Just make it simple for my poor little brain. When you get this divergence pivot stop out, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Oh, sorry, wrong button. This divergence creates a line, and this line creates resistance. Where are the trigger lines relative to the divergence line? Location-wise. Location, location, location. Are they above that line or not? That's all you need to know, guys. You don't need a big, long degree in learning how to trade. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. All you need to know is where are my lines and what are my triggers. My triggers are not even close to breaking above it. It's going down. Now, doesn't mean it can't break it eventually. Look, we don't care about what might happen later. All we have to care about is where are we at right now. And based on this look right now, we're not taking any more long trades. We probably wouldn't have taken this one. And damn sure not going to take any after this. Huh? Hang on 2 seconds, guys. 2 seconds. Sorry about that, guys. You guys hear me okay? Anyway, look, it's really, really, really not difficult. What we do is really easy as long as you make it easy. Give me a why you can hear me. I just want to make sure. Whenever I come back from a little pause there. So as we go forward, and we'll get to some live charts in a minute, I promise. So look, when we're thinking about taking, here's a signal short that the system gave. So again, I want you to think before you take this short trade, this is the look where you're making up your mind. Hopefully this is helpful, but again, look, we teach you this in the user guide, but I don't think everybody really gets it. They don't apply this principle or thought process to what they're doing. So, again, this is the moment in time where you're making up your mind. Have you reached what's going to be trouble? And is there any reason why it won't keep going? And I think the answer is no, you should take your short. And, again, you get your short. All right. Is it going in and out for you guys or not? I don't see any issues over here, but I don't see any issues. Looks good to me. Anyway, just want to make sure. All right. Well, maybe there's the internet thing. My internet went out for a little bit this morning, so who knows? Maybe the internet's blinky. You never can tell. Anyway, long story short, we have to make up our mind whether we're taking these trades or not. So this is one more short trade that it generated. And, look, for me, this is a difficult one because for me, whenever we have divergence from one to ones, you typically don't really get an easy trade. If you did it, you're going to have to be in. And then, 1, 2, 3 divergences, you're probably going to have to be out. So if you did take it, it's like, it's not that bad, but you still have to manage it. All right, going forward. You guys want to do a few more of these circles? You're getting the point, right? So hopefully you're getting the point. Anyway, look, do you want to go long at the circle? And again, now you're not looking at the circle anymore, are you? You're looking at this. I hope. Hopefully we've changed your vision just a little bit on where you're looking. Instead of going long with the system here, do you guys see what I'm talking about? So again, look, you don't know what's going to happen, but this is the high at which you're making up your mind. How many triggers are past that fib? None. And spoiler, you're going to get divergence. So again, look, this is the point where you're making up your mind and you're like, it's not a bad look over here, but that's a bad look. So you have to figure out how many of these do you win when you trade into the fibs with divergence and how many of them do you lose. So anyway, you get the point, right? It's really easy. I think it's easy. I say it's easy. Of course, I go in with a couple weeks worth of practice on this, but once you get it, you're gonna be like, oh man, it's not that difficult. And I wanted to, because look, this is trend trading, whether you use a system or whether you're just using the charts. There's no difference. So when we start looking at our charts in a minute, you're going to be able to tell me yes or no that we've got a great. My Ninja connection just went out. Hang on. Pause for a second. And again, look, I'm not trying to over beat up the whole trend trade idea, but I really am. Again, when you guys are going to do a trend trade, you're going to have to ask yourself, do I want to do it based on the precursor look? Where are the triggers? Where are the fibs? What's the strength? What's the entry area? And does everything line up well enough that I can, comfortably take the trade and have enough room to a target? And then ultimately, look, I think this one might be an okay trade to take, but this is where you get short maybe, and then you put your stop in above the pivot and they get you and you're like, okay, that's the end of that. So it's okay to have small losers, I think. That's just part of the business, right? Okay. Do you guys want to keep doing these things? When you start to see it, hopefully it really is moderately easy for you. Again, what happened before? What do your triggers look like? Where are your areas for targets? And should you have taken this signal with the system? I think the answer is yes. That one looks like a pretty darn good chunk to me, but again, this is you guys trading, so it's not that there's not more trades, but everybody's like, oh, should I have taken another trade short? And again, when you go back and look at it, is your best trade that's making you rich short after you get divergence from a fib? Not saying it can't go, but is it your best trade? And then ultimately, look, here's another one. Let me make that circle a lot smaller. This is literally poison, in my opinion, but this is the surest fire way to lose money with a trading system on the big chart. Double divergence, pivot stop out. They just don't go very often after that. It just, the double divergence, pivot stop out from the one-to-ones. And it's not that it can't go down. It's just they have a tendency not to go very far. And if you do decide to take it, you better be hot on the management stick just in case. Um, Again, look, we could do this all day. I'm up to 7 o'clock in the morning. So we had a trend trade in here, and I want you to look at forget about what happened after, because I don't think that's as important. I mean, it's going to do whatever the hell it does. It's not really up to you. So look, this is the high where you're making your decision. Do I want to take a long or not? Yes or no? What's the answer? Yes. Hell yeah. Give it to me. Right? And now, what was the result of your decision to go long on a pullback? Well, it went up. This one is a little more difficult. Right? So look, and again, not that the other one didn't go, but look at what happened before it, and you have to ask yourself the question. This is a really good example if you're being honest with yourself and you're not bullshitting yourself about the history of the charts. Look at the difference between these two. One of them is there's nothing. Literally, that's a 90, 80, 90%er look, precursor look. And then this one becomes more of a 50-50 look. And it's not that it won't go. You may say to yourself, look, we had a good bottom with lots of divergence from fibs, and I'm doing nothing but long trades, period. So you may say to yourself, I'm going to go long anyway. And, instead of jumping in long, you may say to yourself, the large chart is so strong, I just can't help myself. But you might get in after an up bar. And then that way you're able to control your risk with a stop below a pivot. And if it goes like you think it's going to go because of the big chart, cool. And if it doesn't, you've limited your risk to just that. Does that make sense? So again, you have to have some large chart presence. What's going to happen based on my large chart, not just small chart? It's both. Now, I can see this circle right here. You guys answer the question before we look at what happened afterwards. Is this circle a long trade you want to take? Yes or no? Nope. No, I mean, it could go up, but it's really, really tough sledding. Now, it went up anyway. Again, obviously that large chart was very, very powerful at that point. So you may say to yourself, look, if we make a pivot stop out and I make an up bar, I'll try one more to see if I can get to the edge of fibs. You may say that to yourself because of the strength of the big chart. If it's so strong, look, a termination condition on a small chart is the exact same thing in reverse. If you can't go long because of a termination or short, let me rephrase that. If you can't go long with a bearish termination condition, can you go long with a bullish termination condition? What? Think about it for a second. Anyway, food for thought. And now look, we get to this big, super fat red clump of fibs and with divergence. And what do you guys think? More long trades or no? I'll give you the answer. Spoiler alert. No. Yeah, I mean, they got to do work before, they got to really break an area. And eventually, look, they do it, right? So there's no long trade there, but eventually they break that area. And, this is just discretionary trading, but look at what happened before the long trade. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing there. Everything's up. There's nothing there. Take your long trade. Now you get to fibs with divergence. What are you going to do? No more long trades. It almost looks too easy, doesn't it? Yeah. It's just, when people go, I know what I'm doing, and I say, bullshit, no, you don't. Well, you think you know what you're doing, but you don't really know until this is why you have to put these charts in. And, we don't talk about I mean, we do technically in our stuff, we talk about what the look should be prior to you doing a trade. But did you guys pick up on that? It's only been in the book for 5 years. Did you pick up on that thought, though? That it really is super important on your small chart what happens before you take your trade. Now, we just have a perfect look because it works and it's perfect, but now you see why it works, don't you? When you're making up your mind to take that trade, you're like, oh, okay, there's nothing there, no reason. So, yeah, of course, we're going to take a trade and hope that it works out. And then ultimately, it does what it said it was going to do. Anyway, all right. Now, my Ninja Trader, well, my internet went out, disconnected on me. So, is that enough of that for now, guys? We'll get to some live charts if you want. Let me get this thing turned back on again here. Hopefully that was helpful for everybody. Even if you don't think it was helpful, go back and review it again later. It will be helpful once you really study your charts. And this is the reason, people ask me the question, why do I run these system settings the way I do? I can't do anything while it's thinking. I wanted to generate as many arrows as possible so I have as many opportunities to make money as possible. You want to see how to do momentum trades on TradingView? Okay. Victor, give me a picture of your rules for doing momentum trades on TradingView, if you don't mind. Would you just snap in a picture and send it to me? Just so I have it. Oh, why not, Victor? Why not? You're missing out. Okay, so let's do something really crazy if you guys don't mind. All right, let this thing catch up here. All right, I think we're live now. Finally, caught up. You don't understand it? Well, you probably shouldn't do it if you don't understand it, that's for sure. So let's talk about it. But you want to do them, okay? So, can I do this first? I know this is going to be really freaking crazy, but let's talk about the rules first, okay? So, number one rule for a momentum trade, you must have a good top or bottom prior to doing a trade. So you either have to have a really good bottom or a really good top, and then it has to be screaming in your favor. So are we okay with that thought? And you can't be trading into something that's going to cause trouble. And then you're going to get in at fibs or one-to-ones. Basically, bear with me a second. So I want you to see something, Victor. Let me pull up like an old picture from way back in the day, okay? Let's see. Where is... Let's see. Momentum trade. All right, so look. This was our momentum trade in 2004. Okay, because look, it's very similar to what you can do with TradingView now. Because we were using like tick charts back then, so we weren't using dynamic Rinkos. So if you have a top, a good top, and you've got strong triggers and you break out below a one-to-one, let's say in this case, and the triggers are past the one-to-one, you can get in short. That's it. So here, watch. I'll pull up TradingView real quick. So look, the same rules are true today. You want to have a good top, nothing in the way, and you want to buy or sell a pullback at an area once the triggers are at or really beyond the area used for entry. So if I pull up Trading View, let me pull it up here real quick. I've got a bunch of stuff going here on Trading View, but all right, NASDAQ. So I'll look at the NASDAQ since we're on the NASDAQ chart. So here is rule number one, Victor, on your big chart. I have to have a good top or bottom to where I'm like, okay, that's a really, really good top or bottom. So what's a good top or bottom? Some type of termination at an area, right? So let's just say, for example, this area right up here. You see where I'm drawing my circle? So it's a pivot stop out. So once we get this pivot stop out, and then once we start getting our trigger lines to turn, where's my drawing tools? That's up. Where's it down? So somewhere in this bar, we could probably do a momentum trade because we've had a good top that we can define. Or, even better, look, you've had a good bottom. You break an area, you're above your triggers, everything's going very fast and strong. So it's a very limited time when you can do momentum trades. So when you're looking at a momentum trade, let's just say on a 1 minute chart, let's go back in time. Here's the problem. Everybody's going to see 1,000 momentum trades all the time. So anyway, let's look at it from this perspective. Let's assume we made a good bottom, right? So we'll talk about rules, but let's just say pivot stop out at the bottom. Are you okay with that? Divergence, pivot stop out. We'll assume that the large chart is up. And then ultimately, we have to have a breakout of price and the trigger lines before we go long. So let's assume that we were going to do a long trade momentum style. That would be your bar right there. It has all the triggers up. Do you remember my little speech I gave you about where the trigger line's located? And it's going to tell you whether you should trade that area or not. So, look, I'll draw in another box or two. Look. So I'm going to draw in a box at this midband. And, we're in a very microcosm right now. But, when we look at a midband, I want you to answer this question first. Where are my triggers? Are they above the midband or not above the midband? Above or below? Below. So the midband's probably going to hold. So this is when you guys, if you're with Mark, you're doing trend trades when you get a close below your triggers, right? Trend trade short. Am I right on that? I know I'm right because I wrote it. Do you guys understand it? Everything's going down and you're like, hey, hit the midband. Where are my triggers? Everything says down, close below. Oh, I got to a pivot stop out. That's my target. So you get to your target. And now watch this. You don't have to know jack shit about the market. I'm telling you, if you're new to trading, welcome to you don't have to know jack shit. Watch. Here's the zone that was causing trouble. Are my triggers above it? No. See, still. Okay, so look, they'll keep trying, but look, I go to the right, and now, look, are they above it over here? The triggers. Are they above the top of that zone? Still not. All right. Now, look, where I drew that box in, do you see how price and the triggers are physically above that zone? That's the only spot right there where you get your little momentum trade and you're long with everything. Hope it keeps going up. So, Victor, the rules are Good top or bottom. Make sure you're not trading directly into something that causes trouble. And then get in at the area when the small triggers or all the triggers are breaking past that area. That's it. Now, you're going to see a million momentum trades all over your chart, but they're not right. You have to have the good top or bottom first. And then it's a very, very specific, almost a 1 bar look, and then that's it. I think momentum trades on NinjaTrader are easier. So look, let's do live market right now. So, and again, it's going to be fast, but look, this is an example of a momentum trade right here, Victor. It's moving. So we're watching 1-to-1s, and then just like in 2004 in that picture I showed you, when the triggers get past it, you buy a little pullback, momentum style. And if they start making down bars, you get out. So if you lose momentum, and if you don't, then it goes up. That almost seems too easy, doesn't it? But visually, it's pretty simple. You just have to have this look, triggers passed, buy a pullback, and only do it after a good bottom. So, what was the good bottom we had here? I don't know. I got to look at the big chart still, but it looks to me like we had divergence, higher divergence, pivot stop outs from 1-to-1s. There's a whole mess of stuff that happened down here that makes this one, I'm going to go long look worthwhile. All right. Now, you guys give it to me live. Let's see how good you guys are. If the system generates a long trade, do you want to do it after this look? I don't know what it's doing, so no. Now, NASDAQ is ripping. Right? So, again, that's the look that would say, even if the system gave a long signal, which I don't know if it would have, but we can turn it on. I doubt it gave a long signal, but let's just look at it. Strategies. I'm turning it on. There we go. All right, so we had a couple of signals, but there was one right here, and then there was one over here. So we can go back and look at them, but we don't really need to. So anyway, that look that we had on the small chart right there stopped the market cold, didn't it? All right, now we have a short signal on our little system over here. So do we want to go short? I know this is going to be so fast that it's hard to keep up, but you have to look at your small chart and ask yourself the question, do we want to go short as close to our area as possible based on what happened? And then do we want to go short again? Again, this is where if you're going short, you're doing it, Victor. You see it, don't you? It's almost the momentum look going up. It's hard to go short with a momentum up look, but I mean, even if you did it, it was over quick for you. S&P bars that you can't keep up. Here, let me get rid of these AI freaking responses for now because I don't know what the hell it's saying. Let me just delete that. All right, Swathi, S&P bars are printing so fast that we can't keep up. All right. Trading is not a group sport. Somebody's keeping up. It's just not you, right? That's okay. If it's too fast, just don't do it. I have all of my chart templates settings. I went through this earlier, but I'll do it again for you real quick. Look, my template that I use is on the downloads page in Discord. My template that I use on my 13.2 chart is on the Discord page. There's a 3-minute video, download it and watch it, that I talk about what my settings are and why they are. And then I have a video of managing on small charts. And then I have another video on running market replay with and without small chart management, what the differences are. So everything you need is on this download section, is the answer to your question. Review that stuff first, and then if you have any questions about that, let us know. You loaded them last night, but not the same signals. How do you know what my signals are exactly? It always amazes me when you say, mine's not lined up exactly with yours. And then when we take the time to make sure they're set up the same and we look at it, they're almost the same. I mean, there could always be a tick or two discrepancy here or there with different data providers, but anyway, I bet you it is the same. It's just a calculator. It's literally just a calculator. All right. Victor, do you see your momentum trade? You had what I would call a good bottom. Look, you have divergence, higher divergence, and then all your fibs held and all the triggers were up and everything else. And then you break above with the triggers above. You see it? Yeah, well, they're few and far between on all charts if you wait for a good top or bottom, Victor. Well, you probably just don't have enough experience with it just yet. So, all right, what do you guys think about? We'll see if the system generates signals or arrows, and then we'll talk about them. But all right, let me take a pause real quick and just ask you guys if you have any questions, because I know we covered a lot of material, and the markets are just absolutely screaming. So I do agree with that assessment that it's difficult. If you're not really, really, really super tight on your plan, all right, look at our bottom down here. Divergence from just about a fib. This is where, for me, I would be moderately skeptical about short trades anymore. And then this is realistically where I'd probably start thinking about the idea of if we stop here. We'll see if we do. Well, they're not going to stop yet. They're going a little lower. Anyway, we'll see if they make a pivot stop out or if we make something that causes a signal. It looks to me like it's going to happen fast if it's going to happen. So we'll slow it down and go back and look at it. Let's do this. And hopefully you're not terrified to do so. I think this is the most important part of what we do. Because look, the lessons we teach, guys, are all the same. They've been the same for 20 years. So what's the difference between you making money and losing money? Can you guys answer that question? What's the difference? Well, it's more than that. I think personally, it's reading the indicators wrong is 99% of most people's problems. So look, would you guys agree that divergence from a red fib up here is not a good reason to go long anymore? Not only that, but we had yellow 1-to-1s on our big chart, but divergence from a fib means you're not going long anymore. So the question remains, if you're not going long, can you go short? So, this is where I think it may be too much to digest for one day, but I was going to ask you, see if you guys wanted to go through market flow charts, but man, that's a whole lot of, that's a whole, look, you guys are better than you know at reading the market flow charts. Watch. I'm going to make this really simple. I want you to answer questions for me because there's a momentum trade on the market flow charts that I love personally. Um, it starts with a good top or bottom. You remember where we had drawn this circle and we said this is a good bottom? So I want you to answer a question for me first before we do anything else. When you look at this fib area and this divergence pivot stop out, how many triggers are below it? Give me a count, 1 through 4. How many triggers are below it? None. So we were already saying on our other charts that we were going to probably have a good bottom. So every chart said it. The 34.5, the 13.2, and this chart. So if they all say the same thing, guess what happens? Well, this is where the high volume area trade comes in for us. So if we are convinced, and look, we can be wrong, but if we're convinced that a bottom is in, good bottom, and the trigger lines roll over, this is where we're looking at our high volume areas as potential entries. Does that make sense? Because we know we're not going down anymore. There's a potential of it anyway. We don't know for sure. We never know for sure. But the rules state, can I go back to the rules? Damn rules. Watch. High volume area trades. You ready? Number one, what's the most important thing? You've got a good top or bottom plus the triggers. So you have to, what's a good top or bottom? Well, to me, multiple charts saying we're not going any lower or higher at a support area or resistance. That's a good definition for a good top or bottom. Lots of fibs, lots of divergence, lots of pivot stop outs, all the good stuff without the triggers beyond the area. Make sure the trigger lines do not break beyond the area. You see how I have that written in there? Let me try to, I can't make it any bigger. Make sure the trigger lines do not break beyond the area. It's extremely important. We've said it to you guys a million times, but not everybody follows the rules. Number two, do not under any circumstances trade into Fibonacci termination areas that will reverse the market. And then number three, pinpointing the entry area involves looking for the market flow line that is positioned inside the smaller triggers or larger triggers. The area will serve as your entry spot. And they can also be used during trend trades too. But so we have to say to ourselves, was the bottom good? And then this is where we get that green line and we're like, wow, that's our entry spot. And then you remember on our other chart, we had fibs up here, right? I don't know why they're not on this chart. Something's amok. I'm missing something, but anyway, we hit an outer band. We hit fibs with divergence on that other chart. So this is your trade. And yeah, look, you will find most of the time that when you get the right trade, you're going to have both triggers in your favor. And most of the time, they usually will make one big bar down and then one bar up. And then even if you waited for a bar up and went long, that's your long. And usually you'll see the same pattern over and over and over. If you make a good top, they usually will, when both triggers are going down, they'll make one bar up and then one bar down and you can go short. Anyway, just food for thought. All right. So look, this is, in my opinion, a very good bottom. We have divergence, pivot stop out, 1-to-1s. All of our triggers are going up. What do you guys think? That's a good bottom for us. Would you guys agree with that thought? concept that that's a good bottom? So it's on every chart. It's good bottom. So what we're looking for, what are we looking for? Let's say you were going to do a high volume area trade. So you get that good bottom look, and then what we're looking for is somewhere around the green entry line to go long. Without a good bottom, you're going to lose a lot of these. With a good bottom, you're going to win a bunch of those. Now it's lightning fast. I mean, you have to be an auctioneer to, kind of go through it. It's so fast right now, but that's welcome to the day after FOMC and everything else. All right, so look, discretionary trading, guys. Is this a good short? So I want you to look at what happened prior to the short. You don't have to know anything else, just that the big chart's down and the small chart didn't have any trouble and there's nothing in the way. All right. So if you were short, again, I know it's fast, but could you have made a couple dollars? I think so. All right. Now, what do you guys think about the bottom over here? We now have divergence from fibs and above 1-to-1s. Well, are you sweating because of this divergence right here, Trina? So look at your small triggers. It'll tell you whether or not that divergence is going to get you or not. I mean, it could always get you. But, the divergence happens and you got to read your small trigger lines. Tell me what the small trigger lines say. Is divergence going to reverse the market, or is the big chart and the small triggers going to win out? See that? That's how you read a divergence and go, all right, I got to ignore it for a second. And you're rewarded for ignoring it. And then look, when do you not? I mean, divergence from fibs, 1-to-1s, everything else. Look what happened afterwards. I know it's freaking insanely fast, but you lost? All right. Show me a picture if you guys did a trade and we'll break it down. All right, so tell me about my large chart. Are we in a position right now where we have rules met to go long or short? If one trigger is going up and one's going down, who's going to win? I don't know who's going to win, but usually the large triggers win out. Usually. So if we were to make, let's just go on devil's advocate here. Let's say we made a second higher divergence. I don't know if we will or not. We don't have to, but let's just say we make a second higher divergence. Then when we get above everything and they're both going up, we'll have ourselves some easier long trades. I don't know if we will or not. I can't say. Looks like down at the moment on the small chart. So again, we're going to do a lot of small chart reading. So right now the large chart is one up, one down, so it's 50-50 either way. And now we've got a higher divergence, everything's going up, and they ran right into termination areas. So, oh man, I think my ninja just pooped on me. Son of a biscuit. All right, pause for a second. So I'm going to reopen my ninja charts. I think we're making some good progress on what we were thinking with NinjaTrader. What do you guys think? And again, you can see just by looking at our charts, right? Look at your small chart. It will give you the answer, again, as long as it agrees with the big chart. But we're waiting on data to come in. But look at the high right now. Before the data comes in, do you want to take a long trade above 76 or after 76 holds? The large chart is leaning up, but the small chart was going to make it difficult. We'll pull it. It'll populate here in a second. All right. So we're watching this area on our trading view as well. Victor, are the triggers above this area yet? Now they are. See that? Now they're above it. So we should get a little pullback and then usually some continuation to the upside. And on TradingView, you can see where they're going, right? I mean, it's really not difficult. So this area will be supportive of the area market going up, and then obviously one-to-ones inside of a resistance zone are going to be the spot to beat. Where if you were long, that would be your first. It's hard to imagine this, but after that bar closed up, that's 20 points on the NASDAQ. The bars are so freaking. This is the 1 minute chart. That was 20 points. But do you see how it wasn't okay, wasn't okay, wasn't okay, and then all of a sudden it's okay? Based on our read of the trigger lines and the areas. Well, you already would be done. You'd either have to go at the market in this scenario. I mean, again, you guys, look, if you don't know what you're doing, today's not the day for trading. Oh man, look at this. This is wrong. Hang on. Let me reload my data. Today's not your day for trading if you're not very in line with what you should be doing. This, I need to reload here. So. Bear with me for a second. Man, this damn AI. It technically gave you the right answer, Trina. A limit order is placed at a specific price before the market reaches it. It's trying to throw together something smart, but anyway. All right. Look, back to TradingView while that's thinking for a second. I want you to answer the question at the box at the top. So we all agreed that, go away. We all agreed that the triggers and price and everything else broke above right here. Now we got the same battle to take place right here. I really don't like the crosshairs. Hang on. Let me change that damn pointer. Let me change my pointer here real quick. Man, that's worse. All right, arrow it is. All right, so look, we were going to use the same rules that we used on NinjaTrader. When I look at this resistance area, and again, where I drew the box in, how many triggers are above it? 0. So there's a very good chance that that area holds. And why we said it would be the profit target. Now, same thing is true here, technically, at the moment. We have a high volume line, and how many triggers are below that? High volume line. None. So both, just on a 1 minute chart, again, we don't want to only do what we do on a 1 minute chart, but just on a 1 minute chart, we knew that we were probably going up over here. We knew this was our target area, and we know for the moment that we can't really go short because we're trading into support that might hold. And we can't go long because resistance that was supposed to hold just held. So we're kind of waiting on another breakout again, aren't we? Either a breakout of the low right here with triggers and price, or a breakout of the high with triggers and price. So you see how they nip down right here, this little tail? Are the triggers below that area or not? Nope. So even on TradingView, it tells us that, at the moment, there's nothing to do. Now, we had to look at a big chart, which I have not done, so I don't want to neglect the big chart action. Bear with me. Again, look, the same thing that we do is applicable on both charts. So when we look at a 15-minute chart, okay, at the moment we have areas. I'll draw in a box so you know exactly what I'm looking at. So we have this zone or area at the moment. Everybody see the yellow box on the big chart? How many triggers are below it? None. So what does that mean? Go long? Our small chart doesn't say that yet. No? All right. Well, we have to have some rules on our small chart to get us in. What are the rules? Trend trade from a mid band. Well, we're already below the mid band, so that's not going to work. So high volume area, can we do that trade? Well, are we coming from a good bottom, or is the large chart not coming from a good bottom? Not really. So again, I don't want people to be too hyper focused on small charts. You still have to have your big chart read, right? And the big chart read is we've got support. Everybody okay with that? Just we have support, and there's no reason to think about going short at the moment. Not saying it can't go down, it can go down. But at the moment, right now, we've got support, and the small chart doesn't agree. So you're basically in a sit and wait situation. If it was me thinking anything, I would think that this area would hold and that the market would probably go up. But, maybe up to 26, 120 to this next high volume line. We'll see. So, anyway, I would imagine we go up to here, if we do go up from the big chart. Anyway, let's see what NinjaTrader says. All right, so NinjaTrader says, doesn't say anything really good about going up, does it? When you look at this big chart first. So, again, at the moment, there's nothing good on the NinjaTrader chart for going up. So, I think we can all agree that this is resistance and the triggers are below it, so it might hold. We got 1-to-1s with the triggers below it. That might hold. We've got mid bands and 1-to-1s with triggers below it. That might hold. Holy shit. Wait a minute. We have 1-to-1s again at the bottom. So where are the triggers? Are they below it or not? Not yet. They're getting there. Now they're getting below it. And now we may see a short trade. And again, look, we can go back in the small chart. Did you guys know that you can't see change coming on the big chart? You get it on the small chart first. So going back to our small chart thought process, you guys tell me when you see this, oops, that's not what I want. When you see this prior to a trend trade short, what are you thinking to yourself? Trina, do you see the same thing with divergence that we were looking at earlier? Well, you see this divergence right here, the one with 25 on it? Tell me what the trigger said about it. The trigger said, don't worry about it, right? It's going to bounce a little bit, but the area ended up holding. And then look, we get another divergence along the way. What do the triggers say about it? Areas, triggers, nothing, right? They don't say anything bad about it. Now look at the difference. What do we have? We have fibs with triggers not past it and divergence. This is where they have to do some work in order to go down again. So we probably would stop thinking about short trades for the most part until it breaks. And when the triggers get through it, we can probably go again if we get one. Again, it's not that it won't go down, it's just it makes it a lot more difficult for us. Now, a large chart really has run into a bunch of stuff here, huh? So large chart termination, not that it won't go down one more time, it usually does, but it's just about over. Can you see it? Just about over. Now, not time. Now it might be over. We hit our fib. We'll see what happens. They're jumping like wild crazies. Okay, so we got to a fib, and then the market said triggers below it, and do we get another short trade with all of our triggers below, not coming from any areas? Now we get a pivot stop out with a second divergence. I have to get through that. Third divergence, that's the end of the party almost every time. Short-term end of the party anyway. And you can see it, look. Divergence and a pivot stop out. We had a little trigger. I mean, I'm now mincing. I had a little trigger past it, but this last third divergence with the pivot stop out, look at that. Not one trigger past it at the bottom. Maybe it's a coincidence. I doubt it. Now, look at the large chart. What are we up against, guys? I know it's fast, but I mean, what the hell? So we have a 1-to-1 here. Victor, do we have momentum long look with that 1-to-1 or not? With our triggers down here. The triggers down here are kind of suggesting that we shouldn't be thinking about long trades just yet. Now we can change that thought. This is the nice thing about the NASDAQ. They will change their minds so fast. All right, so again, look, we have to have our small chart thought process in here as well. So I don't have my trend trade system on. Hang on a second. I'll put that bad boy back on just so we can see arrows. I don't have it set to take trades, just generate arrows so we can talk about. All right, so we already talked about this one, right? Beforehand. You see this system trade right here? We had definitely already spoke on this one. And you can see, I mean, if you went short, you were in jeopardy over here, right? Not the look, the precursor look for taking a system short trade. It's just not. Now, we don't necessarily, we have to ask ourselves questions as well. Do we want to go long? No, not really. I mean, we still have a lot of resistance and 1-to-1s, and there's no good reason to go long. Now we're in a situation where we have to ask ourselves a question. Do we want to think about a short trade? We have a pivot stop out on the big chart, but see the but? The small chart at the moment doesn't say stop yet. Now, it might. This is where Again, I think there may be one more chance for down, and then if we get a higher divergence or something like that, we're going to run up really fast. You see the higher divergence? And usually we run up really fast after 1, 2, 3 divergences, higher divergence. What are the small triggers doing here? Small triggers are up with a higher divergence. We already were warned at the bottom. This confirmed it that we're not going short. So now look at the large chart. We had a red fib, but what are you starting to think about this? We're starting to think we got maybe one shot at the market going up again. What do you think? Now we might have to wait until that breaks. Looks like they're going to break it, but you got to go? All right. So again, Victor, you see what we're doing. What do you guys think about long trades with the system if it generates them now? So there's your long system signal. Should I do it? Oh, you didn't have sim on there. Hang on. And look, if it loses, it loses. So we just have to ask ourselves, did it get up high enough? And it may be over quick. We'll see. I don't even have the right ATMs in there. All right. So the small chart said we're probably going to get away with it. Right? Probably should be out now, but hopefully you guys can see this, right? The small chart said it was okay. So you get to pull back to your mid band inside your triggers, and you never know what's going to happen, of course. But let's not lose all of our money. Again, I don't know how far this is going to go, but we'll find out here in a second. This is where I use the market flow chart. Remember how we talked about one up and one down? This is where I would trail my stop behind right here. So we were long over here. Looks like we might go up some more, but anyway, we were already in. We got another signal. So I have to ask the question, right? Would you have taken another signal based on the small chart precursor? That's so damn fast, so we'll just talk about it. Would you have taken a trend trade based on the small chart pre-look, the precursor look? What do you think? Yes or no? Again, this is a system trade that the answer is, in my opinion, 100% yes. So we had 2 yeses. We had 2 chances for wins. And now we'll see what happens here. We got 1-to-1s. We'll see if we get past them. If not, we're going to end up making divergence from a 1-to-1, which is probably going to make it come down a lot further. Or not. Anyway. All right. So again, when you guys look at autumn, I mean, this is so fast, it's just insane. It's good for teaching, I think, as long as you guys can keep up. We got the, now that one, poison, guys. Look at that. I can guarantee you can lose some money going long with the system with that one. So do you see the system signal? I'm not saying it won't go up. It can. But in my opinion, look, we're talking about poison on this one. Do you guys see why? Hopefully you see it. Your auto trading did justice today. Let's look at it. All right. $3,900. Beautiful. Almost pays for itself in a day, doesn't it? Cool. Last time I was in here, I told you guys I was going to get a lease version of the trading strategy, and we're working on it. I got the software, but man, it just didn't work right. There's some bugs in it, so they're working through those bugs. So eventually, we're going to get there. Anyway, look, if you did go long here after this, you had a really difficult time with it, didn't you? Now, Victor, you see it? Ah, I'm going to be too damn slow to get it, but you see how you were getting a momentum breakout through one-to-ones right there? This is where people also call it the chili dog, which you hear Mark and those guys say that, but you can see the lower end of the bars breaking out above with the triggers above. It just means we're going up. And then now, just as fast, it's over. It's one that you pay for monthly instead of owning it for a lifetime. It's not ready to go yet for public consumption. So the only one we have is our lifetime version of the system. If you guys are inclinated, the one that's on our page. So you'll own the lifetime version plus upgrades for $5,000, and then if not, when I write all the small chart stuff in there and we make a lease version, we're going to lease it for a hell of a lot more than that. So it's going to be more expensive to lease it when it's time. Okay. Deep breath. So look, everybody see it? Hard to go long after that. Easy to go long after it breaks out. Hard to go long after resistance with divergence. So we're moving into, the large chart kind of gave out in here too. So anyway, hopefully you'll see that, it was easy, then difficult, then easy, then difficult. All right. Answer the question for me, guys. How many triggers are above this? A lot or not many? It's not super convincing, is it? Now, looking at the large chart, we got a little room to go. So let's see if our triggers continue up and we get a push through the red line or not. We'll see. All right. Now, check this out. Do you see this termination condition right there? The same reason why you can't go long. It's, again, this right here, I was hoping it was going to break us out, but it didn't. So they're beating it up in here. So at the moment, we didn't ever break out above that very convincingly, did we? I was hoping that this was going to make it happen, but it didn't. All right. I feel a bit like an auctioneer today. All right. So small chart said it's the 34.5 reversal bar marker. So where we're going to make an up bar on the 34.5 chart superimposed on this one. So I have my template. It's on the downloads page. Feel free to, of Discord. Oh man, I must not have something compiled. Hang on a second. It's not frozen. It's going through all the indicators and compiling them. Hang on a second. What it is, just so you know, in the T3 Fibs Pro Trader synthetic, the second time frame of fibs that it's plotting on the small chart is at 34.5. So the first time is 13.2, which is already plotting. So there's a little indicator in there that has show reversal bar markers. So that's how we get the little yellow reversal bar marker on the small chart. And we can also, so you just check those boxes. And the show all reversals is, this is where we would have made a 34.5 up bar. And now it's right there. See that? So that's all it is just the 34.5 reversal bar marker superimposed. All right, so look, I'm going to remove my thousands of drawing objects here. Uh, without too much trouble, what do you guys think? I mean, it's not too hard to see stop doing trend trades right there, right? And maybe you use a termination with everything going down to get a short trade. And then maybe with divergence and no triggers from 1 to 1s, you realize now we can go finish the move to the upside. Right? So is this going to be momentum trade? I'm going to do it just to, I wanted to do it. Victor, what am I buying area wise right there? Nope. All right. Look at my large chart. Did I have a good bottom? Nope. Not yet. So again, if you do momentum trades in the wrong spot, you're going to lose money. Now we've got the large chart being more of an advantage for going up. Our small chart still has that same resistance, but we're going to watch our triggers. So do we want to do a trend trade long here with what happened up here? Large chart says yes, small chart says no. It's not the easiest. It's not a bad look, but now it's a little easier, isn't it? Well, we got a pivot stop out over here. There's always going to be some reasons. Nice thing about the NASDAQ is you don't have to wait long. I'm expecting, look, we got above everything. You should get one more long trade, right? That may not be the best entry, but I was expecting one more long trade to get up to the next area. Why am I expecting that? Because of the precursor on my small chart, what happened? Now, second lower divergence is going to ruin the party. I know this is fast, but are you guys okay with that? I got a bad fill, and I took a market order, but I took it because of, not really because of my large chart, but it was up. But do you see the precursor on that? That may be it. I guess I don't want to lose money after double divergence, but anyway, it's pretty easy, right? I mean, it's not easy, of course, but to see what's happening before you take that trend trade and then taking the trend trade right there, a whole lot easier, isn't it? Well, it's just asking yourself what happened before you do a trade. So when we look at the rules for high probability trades, right? Hang on a second. Where the hell did I lost it. Hang on. Made that way too big. Bear with me here just for a second. Entry opportunities. This look. During the live market, you have to look at what's happening at the high before you make the retracement to make up your mind whether you're going to take the trade or not. And you can go back and watch this video. We got hours now recorded of this and so many examples. But what happens before the pullback is so important with what we're doing. Well, it was almost at the same spot, Adriana, yes. But did we make a lower divergence? So I got in here at the yellow box. Did we make a lower divergence? So I had a stop in there. So if we did, I would definitely, you know, get out, but it didn't. So you prepare for it. And if it doesn't make it, obviously I got out at the fib. So, and now we got to take a look at our large chart again. Let's not lose sight of our large chart. So again, look, the system had a trade long. I had a trade long. Everything agreed. So really 3 spots where the small chart, large chart agreed. And then now we've got yuck at a red line. So probably not going up anymore. We have to ask ourselves, do we want to take short trades yet? Well, the short trades can't be based on a trend trade, can they? Because our large triggers are up. So what else do we have in our arsenal? Can we call this a good top with triggers past the fibs? What do you think? Is that really a good top, or is it kind of iffy? I think it's iffy. Personally, that would be my vote. So in all, look, the system only generated one signal, but the small chart agreed and it won. Crazy talk. And now look, we've got a 50-50 yuck look on our big chart. Hopefully everybody understands that. That's professional day trading terminology. And we don't have any good looks over here on our small charts yet. So they're just going to chop around, mess around, maybe even go up and get to this one up here. And this is where they'll make all their big decisions. You see this fib up here? So pivot stop out at the high, hit this last fib, and this would be required to break probably if we're going to think about longs again. So right now, no longs, but no shorts, and just there's nothing to do. How about we take a 3-minute pause for the cause? Is what I'm thinking. So I'm going to run. I'm going to get a cup of coffee. I'll be back in a second. Let me put this in focus here so you guys can see what's going on. Anybody have any questions? I want you to formulate them, think about them. We'll go through them when I get back. Let's take a 2-minute break. I'll be right back. All right, guys. All right, I am back. So what happened? They couldn't quite make it up there, could they? Still, I think we were all in the agreement that we weren't going long after resistance and yuck look over here. Obviously, when we have 1-to-1s down here, what do you guys think? We're not going short anymore. So, the only choice is to go up or not to do anything at all at the moment. So they may go finish that move off that we were talking about earlier to get up to that edge. That would be my guess. But Carl, trend channels. So I've been doing this for a little bit, and this is my own take. Okay, it's not, and it's something that I'm technically going to automate in a revision of our divergence eventually because I love it so much. I had a picture of the rules of this, but short version is I draw a ray, which is F3, between two lower divergences. So I have to have higher divergence, lower divergence. You okay with that? Here, let me get rid of all this crap on here. So higher divergence, lower divergence, and you basically hit F3 and it'll draw a ray, which you connect the two dots and then it extends out to the right. Now, Control C, Control V, copy paste. And you put that trend line. So essentially oops, shit. Bear with me a second. I lost it. Come back. Hang on a second. There we go. So you put that trend line. So when you copy paste it, you're anchoring the copy pasted line. So from this top one, I guess you can right click copy, right click paste. I don't know. I just do Control Z, Control V, and you anchor it to the pivot between the two divergences. Does that make sense? So whatever the low is. And then usually, like if you were going short, it would end up being your target area for your short trade. And then, again, now we hit that pivot stop out. So you see how we're in it right now? So we kind of got outside of it, but we got right back inside of it. So that should probably be your short trade right there, I would guess. And then target would be down here. Anyway, we'll see what happens. If usually when you have fibs and trend lines, they work out really well, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, going back to our small chart before we do anything else here. Again, I think this is going to be your short. That's what I read anyway at the moment. We'll see what happens. I want you guys to focus your attention to the top. So remember we were talking about getting to that last fib, and then we want the market to dictate to us what we should be thinking based on what happened on the high. So when we got this high, number one, it's a pivot stop out on a big chart. But number two, do we want to go long again if our system or whatever says so? And you can see the answer is emphatically no. So you'll see the same logic. Look, no going long here. If you were going to go long, maybe right there, and then no going long again. And then, anyway, at the moment right now, it's telling us we have resistance and we also have support. So one of these two things is going to have to break probably on the small chart. All right, so let me see. Yeah, I know. I kind of deviated to trend trades a little bit. Um, and the other thing, so look, let's say we have a good top. So, the one thing we talked about it for a second, but remember we talked about high volume areas as potential selling spots. That's basically what we have up here. It's a little far away, but and the other part of if we actually made a top, when we look at our smaller chart, if both of our triggers are trending down, we can kind of do momentum trades to the short side. I don't see that happening just yet. So, there's a whole lot of nothing to do on this chart unless you're at a good top or bottom. It's just nothing to do there yet. Yeah, I'll give you the trading plan. Hang on a second. I mean, I got a lot of trading plans, but give me a second. I'll give it to you. Here's the thing. Every trading plan we have, Cheetah, is the same. It's trend trades, momentum trades, high volume trades, and then some use of reading our charts properly to get, like the white paint bar trade I have in my trading plan. Man, let me see. Hang on a second. I got so much crap in here. I've got so many trading plans. It's ridiculous. I mean, I've made so many trading plans. It's ridiculous, but they're all the same. It's just different, slight variations of. Man, I can't find it. Hang on a second. I'll find it. Bear with me here. Anyway. All right. All right, trend trade short or not? Yes or no, guys? Divergence from one to ones. Maybe with confirmation and a down bar, but without a down bar, you're not going to get your short trade. Yeah, I'll post it. I got it right here, and I'm getting close to it now. So, here's one for you that I'll put in. It's called "Everything Needed to Win with Nexgen," which is basically everything I just went over. So that's a good one. Where is that plan? Huh. Let's see which one this is. I'll have to find it. I'll send it to you. I don't know where the hell it is right off the top of my head, but I'll send it later. Remind me so I don't. Trading plan. Now I'm just mad. I can't find the damn thing. Aha! I got it. All I had to do is want to quit, and there it is. There you go. That's the plan. And look, like every plan, guys, if you don't read your indicators properly, you're going to get in trouble. So remember we said this divergence from one to ones is probably going to stop the trend trades from going short. And then here's a question I have for you. Just going to throw it out there. What if we get divergence from one to ones and we think it's going down? Can you use it as a short signal? I've been testing this one lately. Anyway, I'm not saying use it, but I've seen this one. If you're not going to go long and you're going short, sometimes the reason to not go long is a reason to go short. I'm not saying do this. I'm just messing around here, but you get the idea, right? You can't go long because of divergence from one to ones. Can you go short? I mean, the indicators are not lined up for a short trade. So I'm not advocating that. But anyway, the more you study it, the more you're going to be like, damn, all right, there might be something to it. Anyway, indicators are not great for, see if we get a, I'm going to get out of this. Anyway, it's not a good trade. I can't get out. Anyway, not a good look. Yeah, we'll have a good look in a minute. Two lower divergences. Still good reason not to go long. I kind of got away with one there, didn't I? Anyway, where does that trend line come in at? 40? Let's put it down here by that trend line and see what happens. Got a lot of crap down here to get through. See what we got? Divergence potential from one to ones. That's a good reason not to be in anymore if you get the divergence. All right, Paul. So look, let's open it up to questions, guys. Do you guys have any questions that you guys would like to go through? Anything that I can answer for you? I know you guys are I probably ruined everybody's weekend. You're going to have to go back and study the looks before trend trades from now on and say to yourself, should I do it or should I not do it? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And you'll see the pattern is very easy to pick up on once you get it. Going back to the trendline channels, Carl, you see, we still haven't quite got to the bottom of our trend channel yet. So what happened over here, and should I be taking a short trade? Yes or no? I'm wondering about it. what happened over here, and should I take a short trade based on that or not? This is discretionary trend trading, but luckily it's actually working. The question is, though, is it really luck? We hit our trend line. You see that, Carl? So we got outside the trend line a little bit, but just to a termination. And then again, these things tend to kind of persist for a while. And now technically we've got a new divergence and lower divergence. So we kind of have a new one that they've established. So look, copy paste, and then look, this should put us down here where this bottom trend line is a little bit bigger of a target. See that, Carl? It's really easy. Just two lower divergences, put it on the pivot in between, and it just creates your channel, trend channel. That works out quite well most of the time. Anyway, that's something I want to automate, but is really easy to do manually. All right, did you guys understand this trend trade short? I think it was pretty easy. What happened before it was nothing. And then, should you take it? I think the answer is unequivocally yes on that one. And then, obviously, we made it down to lower levels so we can make some money on that one pretty easily. Not a bad look, huh? Still going. May keep on going. Who knows what it's going to do? We never know, but. All right, questions. So we're up $2,000 on a two lot. I mean, that's not bad for just. I mean, I'm not even really doing many of the trades today, so we've talked about 100 of them, but we haven't done all of them. Still up $2,000 on a two lot, so that's not too bad for playing around. I think everybody's trend trading is going to get better going forward. Yes, absolutely, Kim. And again, look, it's just, trend trades are trend trades. It's just a function of making sure the large chart agrees and the small chart agrees at the same time. And, again, I know I said we are going to do some market flow chart work, but, again, there was not much going on here. We broke a high volume area and came back and retested it, but that was the place for our trend trade short. And then, look, you had to be in at the trend trade short. If you wanted to hang in there, the trailing stop thing that I talked about, where you get one bar up and one bar down, and then trail your stop. And one bar up, one bar down, trail your stop, and then one bar up and one bar down, and then that's the end of the trend. Anyway, you can kind of see it. It really lines up exactly with what the other charts say to do. So anyway, long story short, do we want to continue taking trend trades? We went, again, try not to let trend lines scare you. So, do we have a precursor look that says, yeah, it's okay to take one more trend trade short? I know it went a little further than makes you comfortable, but what was the pre-look? Were we below the one-to-ones enough to think that we're going to go down one more time? What do you guys think? You can't find the tick selection on an NinjaTrader. You got it. Okay, good. All right. I think everybody's had some aha moments today, right? I mean, if you already know what you're doing, then yeah, you probably haven't. But hopefully you guys have had an aha moment where you're like, oh my God, I didn't even see what it was he was talking about. And now you see it. Now you have to incorporate it, which is going to take a bit. All right. So we're reaching fibs on multiple charts. You know what that means, right? If you were short, you're probably going to be done, especially if we put in divergence right here. They overran it just a smidge. We'll see if it's a keep going thing or if that's might keep on going. Hmm. Oh, okay. Well, I've got it recorded, Cam. So we're 2 hours and 20 minutes into the recording at the moment. So I think this one's going to be a really, really, really powerful lesson. Man, they're just kicking its ass, aren't they? This is the NASDAQ, guys. Look, what happened before our signal on our system? Are we at any type of spot that's going to stop the market? So mid band is your entry area. And then look, this to me would be maximum risk. So if it starts making up bars on the big chart, the party would be over. So mid band entry, hopefully we get a little pivot right there. If it doesn't go from right there, there's nothing else on your chart. So there's literally it's there or nothing. And then, you get into this zone where there's nothing on there. You got to look kind of farther down and say, everything's so far down. We'll have to see if we get a pivot. There's your pivot. So look, if you entered at the mid band, you've only got a couple points risk on the NASDAQ. I don't know if you can do much better than that. And there's your higher divergence that makes you get out so fast. You're like, oh my God, what do I do? But that's, might have to go one more time. Short. And now we got to keep going or else the party's going to end up being over. So it's really, really, really important to not go take out this area. If we do, then party's over to the downside. If we don't, so anyway, that just so happened to be our outer band on our chart. So it's a good spot to even be short from. All right. So far at the moment, it's head down. Maybe have to worry about it. Now it's still leaning to the downside. Not as pretty over here, is it? We're starting to get way on the wrong side of things. You see how your triggers are rolling up? So it's like do or die right there. And I would be very, very, very cautious about any short trades that fail at this point. So I'm okay with short trades. I'm just, would watch for some type of failure condition. So, no, it's very fast. Let me see what you got. It looks kind of crowded. What do you need to take off? Nothing. Why were you looking at that much chart, Master B? Why are you looking at that much chart? Here, I got a picture for you. I made this so long ago, but you're going to love this picture. Bear with me a second. I think it's still in our user guide. If it's not, I'm going to be mad. I haven't looked through our user guide in quite some time, but so check this out. Master B, you ready? Let me see if I got it. Aha! There it is. Warning, do not stare. Seriously, do not stare at the market flow chart trying to figure it out. So if you look at everything, you're going to be like, holy shit, there's too much. It's so confusing. So check this out. Here's the answer. Master B, you ready? Market flow signals. Market flow will initiate entries when the rules are true, when the trend trade rules are true, or only after a termination at the bottom or top with an HVA line. So if you have a trend trade set up on your other charts and you need some type of signal to get you in, maybe you're waiting for confirmation. So only at high probability trend trade areas where you're supposed to take them anyway, or only after a good top or bottom when you're using the high volume line. So when you give me a picture and you say, what am I missing? You're missing reading the rules that says don't stare at the market flow chart unless you're at an area to take a trade. It's going to make you absolutely freaking crazy. So stop staring at your market flow chart and look at your other charts first. They'll tell you what to do. Clean it up. Why? Why would you get rid of? I mean, you paid a lot of money for fibs and all the lines and everything else. Spread it out. I mean, here's mine. Look, just for grins and giggles. So this is about how I look at it. So if I was going to take a trade, which we put boxes on the other chart where we were going to take a trade, those are the only two spots to look at the market flow chart. And then if I was going to be in, let's say I was in a short trade, the only time I would look at the market flow chart is if I'm using it for management, which I have in that PDF in that video. But, look, one up, one down, I would trail my stop behind that down bar. And then when I got another down bar, I would trail my stop behind that. And then that would be the end of my short trade if I was using market flow to trail my stops. So market flow outer band. Let's say we're at the outer band and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I'm supposed to go long or short. Or let's say I'm looking for a short, but you want to have confirmation. This one down bar right here might be your confirmation to go short. Right? So it's a one bar event. If you're looking at going short at the outer bands, let's say there's one bar event and that might be your short. So it's not look at every bar and see what happens. Now, if we had made a good bottom just now, which I don't know on my other charts unless I look, if we did make a good bottom on the other charts, this would be where you would go long at the high volume area. And then one down, and then you'll get one back up, and or let's say you were going to do a trend trade on your smaller chart. So should we be doing a trend trade on our smaller chart here? I don't know. Maybe. If it starts making down bars on the big chart, probably not. So a very, very teeny tiny window right there. If you were waiting for confirmation on the market flow, look, that is your confirmation bar. Let's put some targets up here. So some people will take half their money off at like a high volume line. Some people will take it off at the fibs, but let's just say you were waiting for a trend trade, and I'm okay with it, and you were waiting for confirmation. That was your confirmation. It didn't work. Welcome to the NASDAQ. It's quick sometimes. And then you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait. But, again, I'm okay with that. Because if it works, look, you lose 6 or 7 points behind a pivot if it doesn't, and you make 20 points, 30 points, 40 points when it wins on the NASDAQ. So on that one, technically there was no, we had a 1-to-1 with some triggers past it. So anyway, now, do we have a trend trade short look? Yes or no? What do you guys think? We had a good top. We have a potential trend trade short. Let's go look at our small chart and see what it says. Should we take our short? What's your thought on this? Yes is the answer. Cool. Let's see what happens. It's almost ridiculous, isn't it? And if you didn't get a fill, you're like, God dang it. If you were trying to get in, let's say at the 1-to-1, and you missed it by a tick, you're like, oh my God, I missed it by a tick. And then it'll never come back because they don't when you miss them by a tick. But look, everything about going short was predicated on one thing. What happened before? So the large chart said yes. What happened right there? And again, that looks just like the user guide, doesn't it? At this moment in time, you're making up your mind to go short. Now, in the NASDAQ, it's a millisecond, but just like if you were going to go long over here, at the high, you're making up your mind that you would take a long if. On the low, you're making up your mind that you would take a short if the rules are met. All right. So let's see. There's no shortage of fun in the NASDAQ, is there? It's damn near insanity. But if you just truly can relax and wait for all your charts to line up, the large chart, small chart to give you the same read at the same time, things get really, really, really fun for you. So, in that PDF that I gave you guys, it's just basically a summation of our rules. You know, trend chart reading rules, number one, right? So, you know, again, I mean, this stuff is in so many places on all of our chart. But look, chart reading plays a pivotal role in trading the market. 90% of the process is chart reading. Trading is really, I mean, it's just one little click of a mouse. So the act of actually trading is not really much of what you're doing. Chart reading is what you're doing. And when you get, number one, the right chart reading, so think about the three things I'm going to say here. When is the market likely to continue? Where is the market likely to go? And most importantly, when is the market likely to stop? That's your whole basis for trade entry and management. So, and this whole PDF goes through trades, but I mean, the trades are really easy, right? If it's going up and large chart, small chart agree, then you're going to do a trade. I mean, that's basically all there is to it. If the small chart says maybe not, then you may wait for confirmation or don't do it at all. And if the small chart says absolutely, then you take it and you hope for the best. Anyway, we hit termination, yeah, and the high. So we're probably not going long. So let's see what happens. There's not a short look. So we're waiting for the large chart to kind of line up with what we're looking for, which it doesn't at the moment. So we wait. All right, let me ask you guys a question looking at your big chart. It's an easy question. How many triggers are above your mid band here? What's the answer? Yeah, cool. At the moment, none, which is not super great for us for going long, is it? So it doesn't really matter what the small chart is doing at the moment, does it? Large chart doesn't give us an easy advantage. So, you know, we can start to put pieces together and say, okay, the large chart says we're not going up. Small charts kind of getting back in line with the idea of going down, right? Victor, momentum style look through a 1-to-1. It's not the best top in the world, but yeah. I'm leaning more to the downside than the upside at the moment. Now, you can't really go short with this look, and you can if you want to, but it's not ideal. Let's just put it that way. I'm leaning more to the downside with my read because of where we're at trigger line wise on the big chart and the small chart. Now, that could change, and if it does, then cool, right? Carl, have you already done this? F3 and draw your ray in between them. Oops. So higher divergence, and then copy paste. That didn't work out. What is that? Copy paste off. Copy paste. Why is the angle wrong on that? That's weird. That didn't happen. Get the angle of the dangle the same here. Anyway, if we go up, this is where you start thinking about that little trend channel, Carl. Trigger lines just don't quite give it up, but man, they're close. You can see we're leaning now to the upside. Triggers are starting to get above our midband. Carl, this right here would be potential momentum trade long if we get our small triggers above it. So we got a pretty decent look and mostly going to the upside. We'll see if we actually get through this 1-to-1 or not. Cam, you use the Discord app on your phone. I love it. It works great. 100%. All right. So let's see what our market flow chart says, just for grins and giggles. It's got the same trouble spot. So it's got the same support spot, and it's got the same trouble spot, and usually you'll get a momentum trade, and then you'll get one bar down. Well, shit, they just took off, didn't they? Anyway, divergence from 1-to-1s. I don't want to confuse you guys too much. So anyway, divergence from 1-to-1s, is that the best precursor look for going long? And we also hit dual 1-to-1s on our big chart. So we got termination on the big chart and on the small chart. So as quickly as that was through the 1-to-1s, it's not as easy now as it could be. Yeah. You can see the trend trade potential, but as we break out through here, it'll be easier. See how we're getting through the 1-to-1s over here now? So anyway, still not a bad look. It's just you had to trade into a little bit of trouble. Let's say you were waiting on your market flow chart to give you some confirmation, just out of grins and giggles. This is market flow long signal. Anyway, just for what it's worth, if you were interested in waiting for confirmation because you weren't quite sure, that's what confirmation looks like, a long signal. So you'd have to get in after that. It'd be over here. It would be your entry. So from 2600 up to 2612, just a 10 pointer. Anyway, interestingly enough, it stops at a fib. I know that's crazy talk, but What do you guys think? No more long trades after that look. Can we agree on that one? For sure. Divergence from fibs. Not that it won't go up again. It can, but that's not really ideal for us anymore. It was a medium look and then a for sure not going long anymore look for me. All right, you guys know you have some work to do now, don't you? Some studying to do on the charts. The more you study this, the easier it's going to get. So hopefully I didn't ruin everybody's trading thought process too much. Hopefully I gave you a little something else to think about. Look, you don't need the market flow chart to make money. All you need is these two charts first. So if you're not already kicking ass and taking names and doing well on this chart setup, you can't add a third one. You know that? If that makes sense. If you're already kicking ass and taking names and doing super well on these two charts, you don't need the market flow chart. It's just extra noise that will already confirm what you know over here. You know what I mean? Because if this chart doesn't agree to it, you can't use the market flow chart. So in the end, it's kind of redundant. Unless you're doing high volume trades, something like that. Very good. All right, I'm going to stop the video